Hi everybody, welcome to Season 3, Episode 21 of the Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Heighton, and Darren McAnthony, Chairman and Co-Owner of Peterborough United. And just a reminder, we're recording this on Monday, so just the day before Transfer Deadline Day. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot that goes on in the next 48 hours or so. But, you know, it's good to see Posh winning again, and it's the, you know, fickle social media. I'm seeing all these tweets about champagne football and, you know, the good times are back. I think that... there's a lot of happiness with the game on Saturday against Portsmouth.
Yeah, because I guess we're playing with a certain identity. We're playing through the middle. You know, there's a lot more control in the games. It's and again, you don't want to be disrespectful to previous managers or whatever else. But the thing is, the gutter for me is if Darren hadn't quit last year and we'd gone down, we'd probably be, in a really good position.
Yeah.
Because he has a certain way he wants to play. A lot of the players are recruited for his way. Yes, we made changes in the summer, but they weren't massive changes. A lot of the squad were under Fergie. I don't want salacious headlines saying, he said that about McCann and this about Fergie, but it's different football. There's I have a different feeling when I watch us with Darren in League One. I was very apprehensive, before Christmas every time we played. I didn't have the feeling of winning. Oh, we're going to win. Now I feel slightly more optimistic every time I turn it on. I know we're going to play a certain way. I know we're going to try and keep control of the game. We're going to try and get the best out of our attacking players. We were phenomenal against Portsmouth. For 70 minutes, we were, more championship than League One and should have been 6-0 up. It should have been out of sight. And when we've missed 4 or 5 one-on-ones, and I guess that's where, as the players are, getting over what's happened before, probably the nervousness seeps in. Mm-hmm. Portsmouth then have nothing to lose. They'll throw on X amount of strikers and forwards, but up to that point we were superb. Winning 2-1 in the end and making it look tighter and having to dig in was probably a good thing, because in the run-in you're playing a lot of teams around us. You're not going to win those games comfortably. There's going to be games where you're going to etch a 1-0 or 2-1 or a late goal to win, like a Shrewsbury this weekend in injury time, 2 goals to win, and those things tend to happen when you're on the up. But yeah, it was really funny listening to the BBC commentators in the first half. My missus was emptying the shop in the kitchen, and it was like 20, and they were like, well, it's a certain way of playing, and if you're not winning games, it can be a bit, kind of. And I'm like, my missus is like, are they watching the same game? Are you like, you've completely controlled this game. The ball's been on the floor, bar out wide when it was crossed in. It's played through midfield. Like, what are they fucking talking about? I'm like, ignore those fucking idiots. You know what I mean? It's like any old chance to just have a dig or whatever, but it was good. John back on the score sheet, a couple of good goals, some very good performances, defensively strong. Portsmouth scored. The referee, I think people were apprehensive about the referee before the game. I thought he was excellent. I thought he was really good. But look, it's another win at the end of the day, because of what's gone on before. We're so fucking far, games in hand behind Bolton, fucking everyone else, but the squad we have, the team we have, there's no fucking way we should be having to win fucking loads of games in a row to get into the playoffs. It's absolutely no way. But the big difference, probably the 2 games the manager's been in, the massive difference, which I've been crying out for all season, is the experienced players are now matching the younger players.
Yeah.
The experienced players are now playing their best football. Frankie Kent, Nathan Thompson, they're playing their best football. And if you want to win promotion from this league, you need those players. Josh Knight had a cameo. Jack Taylor was just superfluous, ran the game. Clark Harris back in the goals. If you want to win promotion, those players have. It's all fine and well having the young starlets and the ones that get all the headlines and the goals and the pace and the Efron Clark, Mason Clark and Poku and what have you, and Ronnie Edwards. But you need your Butlers, your Nathan Thompsons, your Frankie Kents. The goalkeeper has been a great signing. You need players like that stepping up to the plate. Whilst I don't want to go away from, we want to be young, at the same time, all the promotions have been based on having those 3 or 4 core, you say experienced players, and some of them are in their mid-20s, for fuck's sake. But,
it's relative. Yeah. And they do have a lot of games because you started them early.
At League One level, Ward's won promotion, Kent's won promotion, Thompson's won promotion, Butler's won promotion, Jack Taylor's won promotion, Clark Harris has won promotion. Harrison Burrows at the tender age of 20 is a veteran promotion winner. All those players are going to be needed. And, the manager made the point afterwards, like, Jando Fuchs can't get in the squad at the moment. Jando Fuchs would get in anyone's team in League One.
Yeah.
But I knew Darren would love Hector. I knew Hector Cipriano would be a Darren Ferguson type midfielder. And he's got a new name now to the fans, and we've given him Hector the Protector. So, alongside Jack Taylor. And to be fair, watching the first few days training and what Darren was, he was like, what a player. Like, he's got all the intangibles. Just needs to be a bit more aggressive, just needs to be more confident. Again, he's 20, but he's got everything. And you don't want to, of course, I don't want to hype him up and whatever else, but him and Taylor have been, the axis there has worked really well, the balance. And they've moved the ball. And they were playing three very good midfielders in the Portsmouth team, like Marlon Pack. I forget, you know, very experienced players, a lot of games under their belt. And our two boys shifted the ball, like shifted it really well. So that continues. We have a hell of a chance. A hell of a chance. But it's always like, that has to continue.
Yeah.
And because of the fucking disastrous first half of the season, you got teams like Derby, Barnsley, and Bolton who don't lose a lot of football games. You know, Bolton are fucking, you know, signing every player under the sun. Fair play to them. You know, I think they've signed 6 strikers in January. So their owners and whatever else, they've got that promotion excitement, and they're really, you know. Derby under Paul Warren don't lose football games. Barnsley, I've said from day one, have been brilliant since the summer we played them. Have I missed it? And then you got obviously Wycombe. Also, you got Shrewsbury on fire like a fucking train. They won 4 in a row. And obviously you got Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday are fucking, you know, they're practically printing their championship shirts, and Ipswich obviously on their coattails. So it's a massively competitive League One. And what we didn't fucking need was the shit show disaster, results-wise, I mean, the first half of the season, because we've left ourselves, we're going to have to go on a hell of a run, which we're capable of. And I'd also say not a lot of teams would like to play us in the playoffs if we're on a run and we get in. But, you know, it's like everything else. That's football.
Well, we talked about, actually, before we came and hit the record button, around how few games we've both played. You know, Bradford's game was off again at the weekend. And I was counting maybe 3 or... No, I think it was 6 games in the last 2 months, give or take, and 3 of those were Christmas week.
Yeah.
Which means you do have the opportunity, you get in a run of form, games are going to be coming thick and fast.
Right. So you want to ride that wave. You know, we got a pretty fit group. You know, and you touch wood, you've got all your players available. You got a big squad. Your Fuchs can't get in the squad. So what you like to think is, okay, you get a run and you're playing every Tuesday, Saturday. If you can ride that wave and win, you can see where it takes you. Because, you know, like we've always said, promotions aren't won in January. You know, it's usually the end of Feb onwards for the next like 10 weeks is when promotions and good things happen. So, yeah, the same for you guys. You haven't had a lot of games. Now you're going to have you won't have a chance to blink. It'll be just game. So let's see. It's just good to be winning. It's good to enjoy it. I enjoy what I'm watching. You know, there's an identity, there's a balance, there's an execution. And look, we've got a lot of good teams to play. But that was a good team we beat on Saturday. They've been coming off, you know, back-to-back wins, a new manager. They were favourites early in the season. I remember when they beat them, they were top of the table. You know, we previously obviously beaten Port Vale. They were also around the playoffs. So there's not many mugs in League One. You know, I think next up we got the Forest Green, and they got Duncan Ferguson. You know, and his team aren't going to lay down at any stage ever. So again, it's a big challenge. So can you go from beating that team to go to a team with a new manager who aren't where they want to be in the table and carry on that good form?
Yeah, you look at Morecambe, and Morecambe were looking dead and buried, and now they've had like 2-5-0, 5-1 wins, and you know, I don't know where that came from, but it shows that anyone can beat anybody, doesn't it?
I said to someone when I saw the Bristol, I really rate Bristol Rovers and Barton's done. When I saw that result, I half expected when I pulled up the stats to see 3 red cards for Bristol Rovers. Like if you said to me,
game.
Bristol Rovers have been hammered 5-1. Oh, fuck me, they must have lost 2 players in the first like 10 minutes of the game because they beat us. I mean, they were good. They're a good team. And fair play to Morecambe. Fair play to your favourite manager.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever else. I mean, he does a brilliant job there.
Yep.
You know, and they loan very well. They've got some very good loan players in there. They've obviously got their experienced players around, you know, the top end of the pitch that get them the goals. I see Burton tried to buy their main striker today, Cole Stockton.
Yeah.
According to, you know, Twitter and social media and stuff. So I apologise if that's incorrect. But no, you know, this league, it's just there's no guaranteed wins in this league. It's fucking bizarre. It really is. It's probably the most unpredictable League One I've ever seen in 7 fucking years of football. So yeah, it is what it is. But really happy about Saturday.
You know, one of the things when you have a new manager that comes in, and this can be any new manager, and they come in with a different style of play than the old manager, how easy is it for a team at League One level to adapt? Is it like turning, okay, we got this, we understand, the football brain allows you to switch pretty easily, or is it we got to work through this and
I would say it depends on the type of manager. For example, Russell Martin and then Liam Manning, who was at MK Dons, who followed Russell Martin. They have a certain style of play where they want to dominate possession. They want to have 70% possession. Like, no matter who they manage, you watch their teams and they'll want to have 60, 70% possession. Doesn't always work. So to go in a January, February and get that, imprinted into the team, to change the team to suddenly do that when maybe you've recruited, a bit more difficult. When you got a manager, say, like a Darren, who's come into us, it's ideal for him because he knows the players. They know the way he wants them to play. He's had 2 weeks in the training ground, so he hasn't gone straight into games. Do you know what I mean? So that's been a bit easier. But if I went out and got a manager with a different philosophy and whatever, probably more of a struggle as regards to how are you going to change this now? And with Darren, it was always there weren't going to be massive changes in January. There were going to be a few outs, a few ins, but nothing like Bolton.
Right.
I've done a lot of business. Nothing like who else? I saw a club the other day sign, was it 9, 10 players?
Yeah, well, we've had 6 in, 6 out so far, and we might be bringing a couple more in yet.
I hate big January moves. I really do. Like and I've learned this over time. Every time we've signed 6, 7, 8 players, it's never worked. When we've signed 3, 4 loans that you're going to sign in the summer, players that you've been after, it works. Last January, we signed a load of fucking loan players, and it was a fucking disaster. None of them were okay. It was like, it was. But, again, what have we signed? We've signed a left back who can play left wing back. If you're going to push me, Marriott's obviously gone to Fleetwood. That's signed and sealed.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about that or ask about that, we can go into that. So we've got a replacement in doing a medical as we speak.
Yeah.
If something were to happen, say Ronnie got sold, we'd probably look at bringing someone in there. But we still, because of financial fair play, people seem to forget about this. Like, we're still paying for Cal Watts, and unfortunately, as much as I tried, and I like Dan Ashworth, I went with the begging bowl not once but 3 times to him, and asked him to reconsider after the second time, but they came back and said no, that I've got to pay for the player for the rest of the season. So that's like 58 grand in our budget for left-sided centre half, and although he might be back at the end of the season, it's kind of like we need that potentially sorted now. So that's a gutter. And yeah, that's Premier League and League One. And I tried everything. With the begging ball, I was like, football family, good luck signing Anthony Gordon for 45 million. Right. By the way, Ivan Toney, to be another couple of $100 grand coming to you in add-ons from the goals and appearance money we're getting, and on top of the millions we've already helped you with. No. So, yeah, I'm going back to the EFL in the summer about the rules of loans. I tried a few years ago. I want to try again. I just feel rules have to be brought in. Help has to be brought in. And look, player gets injured with you, of course, you're on the hook. But you go to a bigger club hoping, a few years ago, we had a player from Cardiff. He got injured. Neil Warnock called him back and cancelled the loan and saved us the wages. And they've just been relegated from the Premier League. I've had it done with players from Leicester. You get clubs in the Premier League and they see it. It's the equivalent of a club in step 5, 6, or 7 we loan a player to, and he gets injured and they're contracted to pay his wages. I would say, no, it's okay. I'll take it. Because I wanted him to develop. I don't want to kill you, and I know you're probably going to have to replace him. And I'm just, I want to sit with EFL. I want to bring this up again in meetings in the summer and go, guys, we have to stop having to pay ridiculous wages and accommodation for players from the Premier League. Like, we're helping them improve their players. We're helping them get games. I don't know. I never looked it up, but it'd be interesting to see how many games Ben White played for Brighton and played for us. You know, or how many games he played for Leeds and he played for us. I dare say across us, Newport and Leeds, he played more games out on loan than he did for his own club before he sold them for 50 million. So what I'm saying is sometimes common sense has to be the approach of if players are being developed by lower league clubs, you know, we shouldn't be paying any wages. Yes, we were paying a percentage of his wages, but we shouldn't be paying any. Yes, we can accommodate him, granted, but we should not be paying any wages. And in the event something happens where you lose a player, you know, to an injury, and yes, he could be playing for you, they're already going back to the Premier League club for treatment. They're already going home. They're not with you. You know, there should be a clause that you're allowed cancel that and be able to sign a replacement, because we are lower league clubs. We're like the bottom of the bowl, and it's so fucking frustrating. And I hate in my life writing begging emails, and I fucking tried, even to the point where I was like, Dan, you came through the system at Peterborough, and now you're one of the best in the business at Newcastle. Please, pretty please. Then it was like, no. And I was like, do me a favor, take it to the board. You know, and again, really happy that you've made millions out of the Ivan Toney business. I did. You know, again, take it to the board and ask. You know, it's little old Peterborough. And it was like, no. In fairness to him, he responded every time, but it was like, no, no, and no. And I was like, fuck. So I don't know. Maybe I'll ask again before the deadline closes, because we can't keep signing. We have a limit in the FFP. Within that, we have criteria, and it's we can't do it, you know, unless we have movement. And you know, the ideal thing was that they would have cancelled it, and we you know, we love the kid, but he got an injury. He's out. He tore his hamstring. He's, you know, available maybe for the final 5 or 6 games, but you know, at that time he needs to get up to speed. You're in a promotion kind of battle, so I'm frustrated. You know, again, Premier League, EFL, one of the richest leagues in the world, one of the richest clubs in the world. You know, it's like, you know, Hull, we had a goalie on loan, he wasn't playing. They called him back, cancelled the loan. They could have held us to it. Chelsea, same thing. Chelsea did a brilliant deal with us in the summer. It was basically we would only pay if he didn't play. You know, but it wasn't even that much. But they were brilliant. The agent were brilliant for Chelsea. And in the end, when we signed an experienced goalie, to be fair, Chelsea rang us and said, you know, can we take him back? Can we put him out again? And we were like, of course. You know, but it had to be on us to agree to it, because we had a contract.
You got the contract,
yeah, and they weren't interested in money. They weren't interested in, you know, keeping us on the stick for it. You know, so yeah. So I don't know. People are going to say I'm a bitch. I'm a whinger. I'm slagging off a club. I'm not. Again, I don't. Please, nobody in the Northeast, nobody around Peterborough, write headlines. Like, I have massive respect and like Dan Ashworth a lot. We've done business with Newcastle. With the previous regime, you know, the Ivan Toney and whatever else. We're just the little guys asking for a crumb at the table, a bit of help. Sometimes you need it and you have to ask. And if roles are reversed 5 leagues below me, I would do the same. So that's just me. But again, no articles writing that I'm attacking that football club. I'm not. And I go fucking mad anyone writes that kind of article. It's not what I'm doing. I'm just telling the truth. And I'm saying, it's not a Newcastle problem or a Peterborough problem. This is an EFL problem that needs to protect us in the EFL.
So, and yeah, I mean, you don't, there's only so far you can go, because you want to protect the relationships for, you know, future opportunities, but you'd like them to do the right thing, or what feels like the right thing for the football pyramid.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I put it. And I said, I'm putting the begging bowl out. My manager wants a left-sided centre half. We need a replacement. There's a certain way you might want to play. You know, we're max squad-wise, wage-wise. You know, the wages, we're paying the kids accommodation still till the end of May, and he's not fucking here. You know how expensive accommodation is? But because it's in the deal that it's his accommodation, we can't use it. So there's that cost. There's the wage cost. It's our budget for a left-sided centre half. It's not. It means a lot to our club. I'm not sure it's going to move the needle for their club. Not when when you see the transfers and you see the money and whatever. So just sometimes when you ask for help, it's nice to get it. You know what I mean? There's some sort of a compromise. So, yeah.
Now you talked about Jack Marriott leaving and that being confirmed today to Fleetwood.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about how he ended up making that call and and essentially, because I think we've been talking about it all January, and I think maybe Darren looked at him and there was some, maybe he's going to leave, maybe he's not, but made the decision ultimately to go.
I think Darren realised that he wasn't going to be in his team, and Jack Marriott not in your team is going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say a problem, not a problem, a bad seed. He wants to play.
He deserves to play. He's got the talent to play.
Correct. And the way we play, there is no place for him. It's Clark Harris or another.
Yeah.
So it was like that when we got promoted 2 years ago. We didn't have strikers. We had Dembele and Schmottix. There were, it was kind of like hybrid. And Jack's not that kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd asked when Grant was here, and we said, okay, we'll put you on the list. Clubs would come in. And then obviously Darren came in and it was agreed, look, let's see how it is for a couple of weeks. Then it was quite clear he wasn't in the team again. There were other clubs coming in. And Fleetwood have offered him the opportunity of a 2.5-year deal. I think he had 8 months left with us. So he gets a little bit more time, a bit more security, decent contract. And fair play to Jack, because he's got a young family and he's travelling a long way to go to Fleetwood. So Fleetwood started negotiating a week ago. And then, we get permission to speak to the player, the agent. Then Fleetwood obviously then try and negotiate with us. Sometimes that's how it happens. And on Saturday, I think it was in the morning, the Fleetwood were like, look, this is what we can do. We came to a compromise. And yeah. And I said to Darren, the money's not going to really move the needle for us as a club. Mm-hmm. So I'm okay keeping him as backup and insurance for Clark Harris. What do you want to do? And Darren was like, it was a Saturday after the game. When I spoke to him, he was like, no, let him go and let's try and bring someone else in. And I'm like, do we need to bring someone else in? Yeah, we've got younger players, we've got some talent here, kind of thing. But yeah, so it was agreed by Darren that you can move, move on. Like I said, it wasn't going to change Peterborough United's financial life in any big way. And really, all the money that we're getting is now going on a replacement. So it is what it is. So yeah, wish him really well. He's a lovely guy, a good one, and shame it didn't work, here, but he'll be a success at Fleetwood, no doubt in my mind. I'm just amazed some other clubs didn't try, even a club down the bottom of the championship who needed goals, didn't try and come in, but it is what it is. That's life, isn't it?
And you said, hopefully you'll be able to replace him before the deadline. Now, when the pod goes out on Wednesday, the deadline will be passed. Are you expecting we've got kind of last minute bits of business?
Yeah, we had a player that we tried to sign 2 years ago. They had a bad injury. So they're going through a really extensive medical at the moment. We've done an obligation to buy because, again, there's a financial fair play. Mm-hmm. So what that means is that we're signing them on loan, and then come June the 31st or June the 30th or whatever, they sign permanently for us. So it's like a financial thing that you do. You see Premier League clubs doing it as well. You're at your roof, as regards to your expenditure and your transfer spending. So we've agreed a deal with his club. He's 26. He's from the lower leagues. He scored a hell of a lot of goals. He's somebody we've been watching for 2.5 seasons, even before he went to the club we're buying him from. The club who's selling him had done a deal in August with Birmingham for him. I believe Birmingham, correct me if I'm wrong, Birmingham fans. And it fell down at the last minute, but that club had gone on and signed players in a certain way they were going to play. So whilst he hasn't been involved a lot for them this season, he still his goals per minute ratio off the bench is incredible. He's a goal scorer. He's a strong, powerful forward. He's not slow. He'll give defenders a bit of hassle, and he's prolific. He's basically a goal, I think, every 100 minutes, 150 minutes, in the last 3 years, whilst that's a lower level. So there is upside, but there's always a risk, and people will go, oh, you're going that. But at the end of the day, let me tell you right now, strikers don't grow on trees, as you know, at your club. And you can go down the route where we commit a transfer for a player like this, or you can go down the route and sign a 19 or 20-year-old from a higher club on loan with 20 plus games in a promotion race to go, who's hasn't even got the cradle marks off their arse. I went down the other way, as did Darren. And Darren, by the way, was the one who actually brought this one back up. You remember when we'd had him on our list 2.5 years ago. So I was on Friday or Saturday, I can't remember. Darren was like, do you remember such and such? And I was like, yeah, didn't he get a bad he broke his leg. And he was like, yeah, but he's fit. You know, he went to Birmingham. You know, do you think there's a chance of re-engaging? And I was like, listen, let's make the call. And to be fair to their manager, he's been very good about it all. And yeah, so the players ain't doing his medical. Obviously, if that all falls down and this goes out on Wednesday, I'm going to look like a dick. But that's football. And yeah, I spoke to the guy on the phone about 20 minutes before we came on here.
Yeah.
Back in the States, obviously doing college stuff and whatever. And yeah, so that'll be that. And then ask me some other questions about the transfer window.
Yeah, are you expecting any outgoings?
We've had through January 4 bids for one of our central midfielders. I can't say who, but it's actually amazing. It's from one of our rivals in League One.
Mm-hmm.
What's astonishing is like a championship club's fucking daft. Like, you know, so I don't see anything there unless every player has a price, by the way.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not get into the whole, you sell your best players and blah, 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 blah. No, we do what we do and we always have done. And I said this at the start of the season, have to reduce debt commitments. Like I've said, that helped us through, you know, the last couple of years, you know, whatever else. And we have to like be sensible here. So there's a fine balance. And I'm not saying everyone's for sale, but if the right deal comes in for one of our players, we'll do business.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it'll be him. And we've got two situations with young Ronnie.
Yeah.
But again, depending on other clubs selling, buying, whatever, Ronnie's going to the World Cup in May for the under-20s.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you'd sell him in the summer. That's when a lot of the clubs we've spoke to in the Prem are like, that'll be a summertime thing. Yeah. But if somebody always hits what we want, we'll do business. And I've told that. I've told everyone that. As much as we don't want to lose our best players, that is the world we live in because, you know, it's we've got a good squad. And whilst we don't lose any players, that's just the cycle of being at Peterborough United. If we played the championship last year, we wouldn't have had to lose too many players. So, yeah, it's just the way it goes.
So thinking of transfer deadlines past, what's the strangest or most unexpected transfer deadline day that you can remember in your time?
I think
maybe a strangest deal or something that just came out of nowhere.
It might have been 1 year ago where Baz had gone to Norwich and done a deal to sell Mikhail Smith. And I had no idea he'd been there.
Mm-hmm.
So, what the fuck are you doing in Norwich? And it was the season, it was like 10, 11, we went up. And he was like, well, you know, they've made this offer and da-da-da. And I was like, and he's like, he's out of contract in like 18 months. I'm like, I don't care, bring him back. You know, and he was like, are you mad? It was 1.5 or 1.6. And, you know, anyway, we had a bit of a mini row and he had to turn around and leave Norwich. And we sold him for like double that money 6 months later on one promotion. That was a weird one. Another weird one was, I remember in January we signed Jack Baldwin and Connor Washington. And I believe it was Lee Tomlin. We had the whole fiasco in the summer with Tomo. And then Birmingham came in and Tomo rang me the day before deadline day and said, this time, if you don't sell me, I'm going to like come around your house. And I was like, oh, you wouldn't last 2 seconds in front of me around my fucking house. So, but at that stage, he'd been sent off like 7 times in 10 fucking games. You know what I mean? So we sold him. And I'd been negotiating with Hartlepool at the time over Jack Baldwin. He should have gone for millions if it wasn't for his injury. And I remember it was like 8 emails backwards and forwards. And it was a dead deal. And I remember it was like, I want to say it was probably 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, I'm going to try one more time. And I went back in and I reworded an email and and lo and behold, Hartlepool accepted it.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, so that was a really weird deadline. There was 3 deals going on at the same time. And yeah, it was, and I always remember there was a player, the Baldwin deal didn't happen. There was another player, it was from Wycombe, a centre half, who was at a gas station, who didn't sign for us, ended up going to Wolves, I want to say, and has played in the Premier League and done very well. So it was kind of like sliding doors going on. The players are in cars. It's a bit like what you see on the TV. Mm-hmm. You know, like this striker, obviously, we're trying to bring in. That was all going on yesterday. You know, then today is like, you got me in the hotel by 2 o'clock. You'll be here for the medical. Things are last minute. We've had some bids from a championship club for one of our under 20 players. And again, that's been going on the last 2 days. If they hit a certain, you know, number, he will go. They're buying obviously potential there.
Yep.
So there's all those things. You don't know what tomorrow or today brings. Like, you just don't know. It's like someone has a list of top 3 targets, and one of your players could be number 3, number 4. They exhaust the first 2, and they're like, "Fuck, we better ring Barry Fry. We better contact Peterborough, and see what they want or what they want to do." So yeah, it's.
So did they? Is it usually a frantic, last 3 or 4 hours of the window where people are just trying to figure out, maybe they've got gaps to fill and they're starting to panic?
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be a case of like, we can't sign a centre half unless, say, we did sell Ronnie, or Newcastle relent, and then we're editing this podcast on Wednesday, and those kind of things. And then you might get a phone call and someone go, "Oh, we can do it right now. We got to get a centre half. Fuck me, the guy we were after's gone, so now we've got to try and get someone else." And it's all a bit lastminute.com. We've had Joe Tomlinson. Gillingham have been trying to buy him for a week, and changing every other day, regardless of what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And we want him on loan, and he's had some injuries and playing the game and all that crap. So you don't know, at the end of the day. And I've said, well, no, if you want him, that's what he cost us. We're not asking for a massive difference. That's what you pay. Otherwise, go off and move on. There's a few players in the periphery. We've got younger players who've got to go out and loan. You want to make sure they go and play. We've even got one of them from the 21s who could end up going to Ireland. I believe there's Dundalk have come in, striker, a young kid, Kai. So little things like that, it's just weird. The other day we had a new USL team in America come on. Sometimes the agents can put these things together. So it's a strange one. What you'll generally have is people will take the piss. People will take the piss. They'll believe and read some of the stuff that's been online about us, which has pissed me off the last few weeks. Then they come on and they make derogatory bids. Yeah. And that's what I sometimes say, be careful with shit that's written. Be careful posting shit. You don't do your football club any favours. It's not fair on us. We've always had the pride of 17 years that we get the best value for money for our players. We don't give them away. But people will read things, they'll believe things and go, "Oh, right, now I'm going to fucking take advantage of that." And they come in, and I felt a bit like that during January. I felt some of the stuff coming in has been like, "You cheeky bastard. Like, you cheeky motherfuckers. Like, this was a year ago. You never have put that in a fucking email to me."
And you think that that's because of what they've read? It's not because of the health of the market?
That's because of what they read. That's because, football's one of them. It's a bit like fucking Love Island. It's like a gossip. It's like everyone's talking shite about you, and it's, they got to sell players. And it's just like, fuck it. It's vicious. And some idiots believe it. And they think, now we're going to take advantage of them. No.
When these offers come in, is there like a chain of command in terms of what gets to you? Or it goes through Barry first, and then only ones Barry thinks are interesting, he brings you in, or how are you kind of involved with that?
Everything goes to Barry and Liz and to me. Okay. But like the one recently about one of our midfielders from like a rival, that person who ran that club rang me direct. First they'd emailed me, and obviously it was like, the response, obviously, I couldn't repeat.
There was some eye rolling going on at the screen when the email came in.
Yeah, well, I was actually on the way to the movies with my missus, and I showed her. She was like, "Fucking hell, what the fuck? Like, they don't know you." And I'm like, "No, but look at my response." And you can imagine. But again, the person knows me well enough to know my response is like one part serious, go fuck yourself type thing, and then I better ring him and fucking make right. Yeah. So the person rang me, and we got on really well, and just had a chat, and it was like, "Look, we want to do this," and I was like, "Look, I understand, and I get the player, their heads might be turned, or this might happen, but we always have a valuation. That's the valuation. It's not going to change." Yeah, but I'm like, "No, it's not going to change." So then 2 more offers come in. It's like, "But you're not hearing me. I wasn't playing games." That was like, that's the valuation. So, this player we've just signed today, their club had a valuation and the way they wanted the deal done, and eventually you compromise to a level of, okay, we got to get there.
Yeah,
and that's it. But all's fair in love and war. I'll deal with some people, like I said to you, and we'll have a bit of banter and battle. And sometimes I go to Baz. I said Brentford in the past. Rasmus from there, who's now on Southampton, went to me direct over that one. But we share the love, Baz has been getting this deal done on the striker today. And obviously with a few other bits and pieces. Baz dealt with Andy Pelly at Fleetwood and the CEO on the Marriott deal. And like I said, I was dealing with a couple of the other ones that were coming up. So it just works well between us. It's the way it goes. And, I dealt with the Blackburn one in the end with the Sammy thing.
Yeah.
First it came into Baz, and then I jumped on it at the end because it wasn't quite, I wanted it to reach levels, and then it did. It was funny. Sammy messaged me the other day, actually. He was like, yeah, I got to come and sit with you and watch a game. I'm like, what were you saying to the gaffer? So, but no, he was happy Darren was back. So, and he's doing well, and his family are doing well at Blackburn. So, so that's how it works. Right now it's 2:00 my time, 7:00 UK time. Who knows what happens in the next 24 hours? It's bizarre.
Are relationships damaged by derogatory bids, or is it all, this is just part of the process?
No, I don't keep grudges. Other people might, and whatever. I've had battles, I've had arguments, I've had war of words with certain people, and I've not had a problem afterwards, dealing with them. There's a couple of people in football I'd like fucking despise, where I'll be like, no, you've done me wrong multiple times or whatever else, and I just like, fuck you.
I think football's no different than any business when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, but the mass majority will. I'm fine with them, and they're fine with me. They might say, "Oh yeah, he might be aggressive or a big mouth or this, that, whatever else," but they have respect for me. They respect what I do, just like I respect people in football. So, and everyone has what they can do. This is what I can do. That's the best I can do. I respect that. I understand that, and sometimes you bow out. You try and do a deal. You can't quite get there. You bow out. It's just that's fine, and it's vice versa. It's the same. Or someone's trying to buy your player, even like Marriott's case with Fleetwood, and we were like, "That's the expectation," and they were like, "Well, we can't do that, but this is what we can do." And then you think about it, and the player, and you're like, "Okay, is that life changing? The difference? Okay, going to compromise, going to do something." You know what I mean? And it's right for the player. It's right for them. That's what you do. So, and I laugh because I said to Baz to tell Andy, like, we'd gone in for one of his players a year ago and he was quoting us 2 million. And I was like, fuck. And here they are, we're talking like, hundreds of thousands, not fucking millions. And like, tell them not to fucking forget the favour I've just done in this one. So, yeah, here's what it is. They've done well. They've signed, I think, Jaden Stotley from Charlton today as well.
Did they? I saw they'd identify. I saw something about identifying a strike partner for Jack Marriott, but I didn't see who else they were going in for.
They got Stotley from Charlton. I read a guy there before, so that's kind of little and large combo that we wanted, to work for Jono.
Always, I think that's any fan wants a big one and a little one up front. Yeah,
if you're playing a certain way, absolutely. So, Fleetwood have done good business. They signed a really good player from Celtic, good centre midfielder, youngster. They recruit well. They do well, to be fair to them. And they've sold a couple of players in the last couple of years, which is what they want to do. Because that's what everyone wants to do, is they have an academy that's a higher tier than a lot of other clubs. So you spend a lot of money on your academy. You want to do well, our young players to do well. What about you guys? Are you going to sign in? You said you've done 6?
We got 6 in so far. Time will tell whether those are good ones. It's funny, we were talking before, again, we went live, I couldn't even remember one of them. Such was the impact so far. But I think that I was reading today about Mark Hughes wanting to feels like he wants to shake things up a little bit. He feels that he said something about there's a lot of players in the squad because we've got a bigger squad who have trained really well and trained hard and been there for their teammates. And so he feels like he owes them the opportunity to go and get first team football for the rest of the year because they've been there for the team without playing. And
good, so try and raise some money on players you don't want.
Yeah. And so, there's a bunch that have gone out. Jan Songo was the latest one, went to Walsall. And we talked about the couple of older players we brought in, Matt Derbyshire, Adam Clayton, and brought in some kids from Premier League Championship teams. And like we said, those are the ones that you really don't know how it's going to go with those. You could, you have someone come down like what Tyreek Wright did with us, and he's becomes a really big part of the team. You have others that come and, you forget who they are and they're gone before you ever knew they were here.
So what do you still need?
What do we still need? I don't think we're that short anywhere. I mean, I think we just need a run of games. I don't think from a squad perspective, I look at it and think that there's any glaring holes or anything like that right now. We just need to get some momentum.
What can't you lose tomorrow in the window?
What can't we lose? We can't lose Romney Critchlow being recalled by Huddersfield, who's a centre half, although I believe that he's played enough games that it triggers him through the end of the season. So, knock on wood that we're safe there. We can't lose our goalkeeper, Harry Lewis. Who else can't we lose? I think that maybe everybody else is... Well, yeah, I guess maybe everybody else is kind of replaceable.
Andy Cook, replaceable?
It's a funny one, is Andy Cook. He scored all the goals that he did as he started the season, and Mark Hughes felt he was coming to the end of that streak, that it was, maybe didn't have the edge that he had at the start of the season, took him out. And so he hasn't played in 4 or 5 games. He's played, 10-minute, 15-minute cameos. I think that he's a good player to have around because he knows where the net is. Maybe we've been trying to build something where it's not just reliant on him. It was totally reliant on just him scoring. But I think that I don't think it would make or break our season if he left.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have him around.
No, I get it. Okay. Well, we need a wonderful second half of the season for Bradford and for Peterborough.
Mm-hmm.
Win double. We need to see 2 buses come June. You know what I mean? The old parade's going on.
We'll have our back-to-back cup finals at Wembley.
Yay! That'd be unbelievable. That would be.
Yeah.
Unbelievable that would be. Can you imagine? Wow. So yeah, I mean, you got to make sure our pal at Bradford gets you in the Royal Box.
I think I've got more chance by asking Baz than I do asking Ryan. There's nothing against Ryan. Just Baz seems to show up in the Royal Box for everything.
Oh shit! Now, changing sports for a minute. I'm very happy Djokovic won the Australian Open.
Yeah.
Very happy. Honest to God, after last year, if I were him, I would have won that trophy. I would have turned around and gone and put the trophy down and gone, I say, I'm taking this with me and I ain't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking got out of Australia. That really made me smile, honestly, with him winning on over the weekend.
Isn't that 10 wins? Played 10. He's been in the final 10 times and he's won every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And he probably would have won 11 if it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what's mad is he can't play in the US Open.
Is he not allowed to play? I didn't realize that.
Your beloved president has still locked people out of the country who are not vaccinated. There are still millions of people who cannot come to America without vaccination. You can walk across the border, but you can't actually come into the country unless, I want to say there's 6 countries in the world that still have this draconian fucking nonsense. I want to say Algeria, Nigeria, a couple of Somalia, a few of America's in that list.
It shows how much I've been watching Fox News recently. I had no idea about that.
I haven't watched Fox News since November. You should do the same and wean yourself off CNN.
Oh, I don't watch that stuff. Don't you worry.
In CNN, you should wean yourself off. But no, I have to because I travel in and out of America. I got kids with me.
And you don't have passport. I mean, your visa green card,
which it's been extended, but because of everything going on with COVID, there's a delay in sending the card. So they have this piece of fucking paper I have, which is basically gives me another 2 years till the card they catch up with the fucking system. It's absolute madness.
Oh.
I've paid millions in taxes in this country, and that should have been like in an envelope, bang, done. But the vaccine thing is madness, madness. Honestly, So any friend you have who's not vaccinated or whatever can come into America.
You learn something every day.
I'm amazed you didn't fucking know that.
No. It shows how I've been putting all my time into building the business, I guess, that I've completely, there's also something of when somebody like Biden's in charge, you're like, okay, everything's okay, kind of the world. I don't need to worry too much.
Did you really say that out fucking loud? Did you say that out loud? After the wealth that's been knocked off in the last 12 months, you said that out loud?
Yeah.
Partner, you cunt. I can't fucking believe that. I'm hoping you're being fucking sarcastic, by the way.
You don't. So what I mean by that is, I feel like when there's not somebody in there's not somebody in the office that you really dislike, you don't pay as much attention.
I get it. No, listen, look, bar Russia, invading everywhere else, and bar the economy being in the shitter, bar not being allowed into America without a vaccine.
Everything's good, right?
Everything's fucking just tickety fucking boo, by the way.
And the stock market down, 50% over the last 2 years.
Let's not talk politics. But anyway, so no, I was just because of the Djokovic thing. I was just so fucking happy when I saw that. It was like, wow. Because I just felt, the pettiness last year that went on around that poor guy. What else has gone on in sports this weekend?
Talking to the Australian Open, it was nice to see Andy Murray.
Brilliant.
Fighting.
What?
It's kind of sad that he's obviously not going to win again, but the fact that he's still driven.
He's a winner. When he lost 5 slams in a row or whatever else, I'm a tennis fan, and you saw the emotion of just before it was the Olympics, he got battered or whatever it was, and he was crying, and it was Federer who'd beaten, was it at Wimbledon?
Yeah.
And then he went and he won the Olympics like 2 weeks later on the same courts, and then he went and won the US Open. It was like that emotion he let out then. It was like, I can't, I'm the nearly man. I'm like, I can't fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like I've lost 4 or 5 times, in a row. To see him go from then and win 3 slams, and look, he was never in that category of the top 3. Like with all due respect,
but those are beyond generational talents.
Yeah. But what I loved about him was a story of try again, and don't let those failures define who you are. Hence why he's a knight. Hence why with a fucking metal hip. And by the way, I'm not a big Murray fan, but I watched the whole. There was a movie about when he had the operations, what he had to do to come back. I don't know if you've seen it. It's out there. It's like a 2-hour movie.
No.
Home life with his wife, with his kids. Every operation he had, every setback when he go out to Miami and train, and then it was like fuck the pain. So for him to still do that with a metal fucking hip and beat a top 20 player, by the way, Italian fella he beat, whatever else. Massive kudos to him because he's got so much money. He doesn't need.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be there. Like he doesn't need to be away from. He's got 4 kids now. Traveling the other side of the world, gone out to training camps, but he's driven to want to still win. I think he's personally a bit of a snarky fuckwit, you know what I mean? But that's his personality, you know what I mean? So my missus likes him. I'll always be a Federer fan. I'm not a Nadal fan. I became a Djokovic fan over what happened to him last year, and the injustice. I am watching on Netflix. They've got a new documentary based on the ATP Tour. It's brilliant. There's 5 episodes up. There's another 5 next summer, and it's all from last year. Goes through the slams, all the big tournaments. It's covering the men, the next generation. If anyone out there likes the Formula one they've got on Netflix, you will love. My missus loves that, by the way. You will like the tennis one. It's really, really good. So binge watched that the other day.
I have to check that out. I remember back in the day, I used to live in Cincinnati, so literally the Cincinnati Open was on our doorstep, and I think it was Murray's first ATP win we saw in Cincinnati against Djokovic.
And that's a Masters Series event, isn't it? Cincinnati. Yeah, they had that in the Netflix thing, Cincinnati. Like they had like a few of them, So yeah, absolutely, that was his first breakthrough. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, and what else? What else going on in the sports world? So we covered tennis. We need to cover any other sport.
I'm not really so clued in boxing. I see there's a ton going on. I think a lot of noise about Chris Eubank Jr. and the language going backwards and forwards between the chap that beat him.
You're such a gentleman, you are. I believe it was Liam Smith who.
That's the one. Yeah.
Bells the shit out of him. I love boxing, so I don't like the YouTube boxing, but I do like the normal boxing. So yeah, that's interesting. And obviously, don't mention my beloved Liverpool this weekend.
No, I'm avoiding that one.
Oof, yeah, I watched that last second winner. Brighton deserved the win. I'm feeling for Jurgen. He's watching Chelsea fucking about to spend 106 million quid on a central midfielder from Benfica right about now. He's watching Arsenal try and buy the Brighton boy for 80 million. When I mention those players, that's the position he needs to like change in that team, and he must be just looking at it going fuck. I mean, I did see there was a few articles from our stuff last week, about my comments in Liverpool. So I have to be careful what I say. So it looks like I'm always digging out the club or whatever, but I'm not. I'm just a Liverpool fan. But yeah, it's we're out of all the Champions League. That's our last chance of trophies. Yep. The only good news is Real Madrid aren't doing that fucking well either. They've fallen off the pace in La Liga. But yeah, we're having a moment, and I said it before. I think it's going to, he said he's not going to bring any more players in, so that means that moment's going to go over the next 2 years because they're going to need 3 windows now to fix. I mean, Chelsea are just out there buying 3 teams. They're gonna have a cup team, they're gonna have a league team, they're gonna have a Champions League team. By the time they're finished with the squad Bowley and them are putting together, I mean, they may as well have 3 different managers, no? One for the cups,
right? It's gonna be like cricket. It's gonna be like the England cricket team.
I mean, what you're witnessing and watching, you're in awe. Because they're just like, they're buying like the best young players. They're like fucking, I mean, they're going to be some force, you know. Potter, I'm always a bit like that with, because I love his style of football, but he's never scored enough goals. It was always the problem at Brighton, and you're looking at Chelsea. But I hope it works for him, because I want an English manager to do it at Chelsea. But they're going to be something else the next couple of years. I mean, they're really transforming. I mean, how lucky can you be as a fan? You get Abramovich and that whole success, the most successful club in 20 years. And then obviously you get all the shit show that happened there. And then you get these guys coming in who are 106 million, like me and you spent $20 on a fucking donut shop. I mean,
and weren't they talking in April, May last year? You know, they couldn't pay they couldn't fly to Champions League games because they couldn't access money, and were they going to be going bankrupt and all this talk? And
it's incredible. It's incredible, but that's football. You know, but Arsenal are still there, so that's interesting. What else?
What's that?
Wrexham and their
Wrexham, Sheffield United.
They must have earned $2 million out of ESPN through this cup run. I would love to see the receipts on how much they have earned in TV. Every round they've been on. Like, and I don't want to be one of those people like digging in about Ryan Reynolds and this guy and the fact that all their sponsorship deals probably paid for the whole fucking thing. But like, fucking hell, there's a lot of other clubs out there who could do it to TV though. And I get ESPN or Disney, and they're tied in with all the documentaries on it was Hulu or whatever.
Yeah,
part of the same. But you got to stop with a bias. Like, you got to stop with a bias. You know, even though yes, that game deserved to be on TV, but they put one of the games when they played in the cup. I think they were playing a fucking non-league team, and they put it on. I mean, they have just fair play to them. Fair play to your former manager. I watched them yesterday. I said to my missus, but she's like, fuck me, the money these guys already have and they're making like this. And I'm like, listen, they will be in League One in 2 years.
Yeah. And it'll turn out to be a brilliant business decision from them.
Probably.
I mean, you can't be, they're making what they can from this, you know, the opportunity that's in front of them. And
these documentaries, they will not be out of pocket. By the time they get to League One champ, they will not be out of pocket. The only thing they're probably out of pocket is buying the stadium for a few million. Well, if they want to move on from then, they'll probably go again. I mean, they will be causing mayhem in the summer in League Two.
And they can mortgage that stadium if they want to as well, once it's been
wages,
cash back out.
I mean, really incredible. So, fair play. Look, the people I'm most happy for, Wrexham fans.
Yeah.
Because I always say this, when the fan base is at a shit kicked out and for a long time, you're always actually happy for the fan base. Forget about all the Hollywood razzmatazz and whatever else. The actual fan base are the ones that are on a crest of a wave, like, getting like you guys did as well when you were on your cup runs and your promotions. It's fantastic. I'm always like happy. I'm envious happy, but I'm happy for a fan base. Multi-millionaire, celebrities from fucking the entertainment and movie world. I couldn't care either way. At the end of the day, the only thing I care about is that fuck me, the spending going on in non-league, wages players are on and whatever. That is always a slippery slope you got to be careful of. You got to be. I mean, if Notts County by some miracle ended up pipping them again this year, that would probably be one of the biggest upsets.
Yeah,
in football. Like that guy, what he's doing in Notts County, the manager, is unfucking believable. Fair play.
I mean, it's still pretty close, isn't it? It's
neck and neck. There's no one else. It's them two. It's neck and neck.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say if I were Wrexham, I wouldn't want any more FA Cup distractions. I would actually, if I were their manager, I'd actually play my fucking kids in the replay and get out of that cup as quick as you can. That's just because the non-league is so unforgiving and it goes right to the end. If you're suddenly distracted with replays and fucking nostalgia about the FA Cup, now it worked for Bradford. You use that momentum to go to playoffs and win and everything else, but that season we got to Wembley, we got in the playoffs in 7th place because it was only when the cup run was done that we started to build up the momentum to get in the last place. If Wrexham lost Paul Mullen in that replay, let's just say, and it cost them their place in the actual pyramid, go back in time and ask, was it worth it? So that would be my only thing I would say. If I were the owners, fuck me. I don't want any more of this. We've just taken Sheffield United to the wire. TV's been great. We've had a great run. Eventually, ESPN have got to stop fucking putting us on. So let's step out of this cup and get back to the business and the bread and butter. Because if we don't get out of this fucking league and we're stuck in the playoffs again, and by some disaster we're back there next year, you know, this dream ain't going to go on forever. They've got to get up this year. So now, if I'm proved wrong and they go to the semi-finals of the FA fucking Cup or the quarterfinals and they still win the league, fair play to Phil Parkinson and the squad. Fair play to them. But for me, no distractions. Like promotion, promotion, promotion.
Yeah, and right now they're level on points. They've played a game less than Notts County. But you know, this story is not going. It's almost like they have to get promoted for the story to continue before people start getting bored of the story.
100%, 100%. So that's what I'm saying. Notts County have no distractions. Notts County have already beaten them. Notts County have to play them again. So game in hand, and Notts County score a lot of goals. So, you know, and Notts County, by the way, are a massive club. So that isn't a guarantee, you know, and then you fall into the playoffs against teams who finished 20, 30 points.
I know, right?
Which is ludicrous. But I believe I saw something recently, the EFL are looking to reconsider all of that. So that's good news. Either I dreamt that or I read that. I can't remember.
No, I think they're talking about changing that now. I'm not sure why EFL clubs would vote for it, because it's like Turkey's voting for Christmas. But
yeah, I get it. I would vote for it. I think, you know, sometimes I've always talked about fairness.
But if you were Rochdale or you were Hartlepool or you were, you know, one of those clubs, would you vote for it?
No, you'd always vote with self-interest, but I would always be fair to the pyramid. I think it's good for business.
Yeah.
I think the pyramid getting your Notts Counties back and whatever, and I'm not trying to denigrate any other club.
Yeah.
But some of the big clubs in non-league you want back in the pyramid.
I think it could give a lot of League Two a kick up the arse as well, because there's a lot of League Two that's just, you know, I'm probably not going to get relegated, so I'm not going to go all out to do anything more than that.
It's been hanging around the bottom, underperforming for years and years and years, and just about getting away with it. Well, and then you got clubs like, you know, Notts County, who the shit kicked out of them, have gone down and got their act together, who deserve to come back. Torquay maybe deserve to come back. You know, some of those clubs we talk about, Southend, you know, you know, they deserve, but when there's only 2 spots, you know, and it's like 1 up, and then you got like this 8 fucking team playoff thing. I mean, Grimsby, it was a miracle they came back last. They've come back twice in the last like 5-6 years, I think.
Yeah.
So, you know, Barnet, Tony is a friend of mine at Barnet. You know, again, you know,
Tranmere were down there for long enough.
Fucking Tranmere. So yeah, I mean, it's like the Bermuda Triangle, that place. You know, and yeah, so I don't know. It does need to be different. But anyway, enough about that. But it is interesting. It's fascinating.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap things up.
Brilliant.
Thanks again, as always, for your time. Thanks everyone for listening. And
it'll be a couple of weeks, because next week I'm going to Rhode Island, New York. We're doing 5 college visits, so I'm kind of like on the road for 3 days with my 17-year-old art fucking superstar in the making. So I'll be the next Banksy. So I will be, yeah. And my daughter got a job in Jeremiah's on her own steam. I couldn't believe it. I was very proud.
Very nice.
Went and got a job, $8 an hour, right? Pulling gelato or whatever else. And yeah, got the job interview, went and did her reconnaissance beforehand and went and got the job herself. So it must be funny. She did a shift last night. And I said, did they notice you driving there in your 70 grand Range Rover? I said, but it must be quite, but I like the fact she did all that on her own merit. Even though she doesn't need the money, she wanted the job.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, sometimes kids you do spoil and look after, they do grow up to be the right ones. So, but yeah, anyway, enough from me. Everyone have a great week, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
All right, talk soon, everyone. Thanks a lot.